so sorry. Yeah. Earth, brown, melanin, mercury, soul train, cold tan, down to the chorus also. Pure gold, mad mind, mad miners, Congo, mad miners, go home, iPhone. Bad apple, pure bodies dead, bad apple. The tree spoke from Ghana. Them people, them Ghana. Shook that tree for a money maker. Sucks how I did wrong. Earth, if everybody's birth, then what's the pure body worth? My soul cry earth. Brown, melanin, mercury, soul train, cold tan, down to the course also. Pure gold, mad mind, mad miners, Congo, mad miners, go home, iPhone. Bad apple, pure bodies dead, bad apple. My tree spoke from Ghana. Now my people them Ghana. Now you shook that tree for a money maker, and it sucks how I did wrong. Oh earth, if everybody's birth, what's a pure body worth? I'm so sorry. Ear the at, ear the A-R-T-H, ear the at, ear T, hear T-H-E at, he at, He-A-R-T, H-E-R-D at, He-A-R-D at, earth, brown, melanin, mercury, soul train, cold train, pure heart. Hear the at, hear the A-R-T-H, hear the at, hear T, hat. There goes the sound of the underdog. See my dread, an underdog, you could be my dread. See my dread, sausage dog, you could be my dread. Against PITs, you've been barking man, please be my guest. Nappy headed sirens scream till they don't sound the alarm like this. Earth, brown, melanin, mercury, soul train, cold tan, down to the chorus also. Pure gold, mad mind, mad miners, Congo, mad miners, go home, iPhone. Bad apple, pure bodies dead, bad apple. My tree spoke from Ghana. Now my people them Ghana. Now you shook that tree for a money maker. Sucks how I did wrong. Oh earth, if everybody's birth, what's a pure body worth?
Ever since I was a kid, I had a dream of becoming a pilot, but could never afford it. One day I decided to stop making excuses, to sacrifice my comfort, to make my dream happen. My name is D, and this is my journey. This is Future Pilot 901. Yes, and we are live. What's up, people, boys and girls, aviators, aviation enthusiasts? Welcome to Future Pilot 901 Live. I'm your future captain. My name is D. This episode or this show is brought to you live every Monday, 7 p.m. UTC, both on YouTube and on Kick. And this is episode number 26. Come on. Let's hear it. Yes. Episode number 26. Thank you very much for being here. I hope you guys are having a great time. I hope you're having a great run up to Christmas. It's a busy time, isn't it? It's a busy time. I hope you got all them gifts. I hope your bank account is not crying like mine is. That's my bank account. This is me to my bank account. It's gonna be okay. We'll make it through. And you know, like when sometimes your job, if you get paid close to the end of the year, what they do is they pay you early, which means you've got more money, or you got the same amount of money for more days, which means you have to make it stretch. So I feel for you guys who have to make it stretch until the end of January. Make sure you make your calculations accordingly and that you survive the next very expensive bit of Christmas. But it's all about getting together with family. It's all about celebrating. It's all about having a good time. So I hope you guys have a good time. And so since we are in the run up to Christmas, I thought I'd take it super easy today. And I would just take time to answer some of your questions. So listen, at the end of the day, full disclaimer, I'm a PPL, which means I hold a private pilot's license issued by the CAA. I am our building on my way to commercial license. I'm also involved in I got a scholarship, a PPL scholarship back in 2023. I've myself produced my own scholarship for 1 year back in 2024. And I've been involved in scholarship, supporting scholars for the air pilots, people who get the same scholarship that I got back in 2023. I support them through their training. And also I may or may not be involved in the selection panel, but you did not hear that from me. So full disclaimer, I'm going to talk to you and answer your questions from my perspective. If I don't know something, guess what I'm going to tell you guys? No, I'm just going to make it up. I'm going to make it up and just lie to you guys. I'm playing. No, if I don't know, I'm just going to tell you guys I don't know. All right. And be honest with you guys, because I think that's important. So make sure you fire questions. I'll be going through some of the frequently asked questions I've got and also some of the recently asked questions that I got. So hopefully that is useful for you guys. Shout out to everyone in the chat. Here we go. How does Cathay pay? So I don't quite work for Cathay. Let's see. I'm curious now that you ask. Cathay Pacific pilot pay. Let's look it up. Cathay Pacific pilot pay. Ooh, no, that doesn't sound right. 10 senior roles with estimate for around 10K to 18K plus monthly for senior first officers, captains. Though Transparency is sometimes debated, requiring careful review of current contracts and pay scales. So I don't quite trust this. I just made a quick Google. It doesn't make sense. Okay, so first officers might be on. I mean, this is dollars, but also you have to remember that this is being used. This is in obviously the in Asia. So I don't know what their pay is like. In short. Okay, I don't know. Thank you for that first question to like just throw me right out of my comfort zone. Thank you very much. But yeah, I don't know. Although I do know some retired captains, retired pilots from Cathay, and so I could follow them up and ask them about what it's like in Cathay Pacific. But I haven't been. Actually, I know 2 of them that I can ask. No, 3 of them that I could ask. So I could follow up on that. So yeah, maybe in a future episode, I will talk a little bit more about that. But for today, that's all I can tell you. That's all I can tell you. Right. So I want to say thank you to new subscribers. We've definitely had some new subscribers this year. Next week's show, I'm planning to do a bit more of a review of 2025. So I'm not going to review 2025 today. Today is just going to be ask me anything, ask your questions, put it in the live chat. But thank you to the community. Thank you to the subscribers, the followers on Kick. You are very much appreciated. Okay, so any questions you have, drop here in the chat. Now, I've got a question here. Why did you start flying? Why did I start flying? That's a very interesting question. So I started flying. I wanted to be a pilot from, I must have been about 6 years old, maybe even younger. But then again, I wanted to do lots of things in my life. I wanted to be a football player, and I dreamt of becoming national team captain. I wanted to be a weightlifter. I wanted to be a bodybuilder. I wanted to be a dancer and a choreographer, which I was for quite a few years. And I got to the point where I had done a lot of the things, I'd tried out a lot of the things that I was interested in. I wanted to get to work with children more. Once I kind of got a flavor for it, I wanted to do more work with children and enhance my skills. I did that. So I got to the point where I was 29 years old, or let's say 28 years old, thinking that I was going to turn 20 or turn 30 very soon. And I was like, okay, let me look back at my life. What have I done so far? Like, I wanted to be a dancer. I've done that. I've wanted to lift weights. I've done that. I may not have competed. I may not have, pushed it to the nth degree, but I've tried it. And I was thinking, what's something that I've really wanted to do for a while that I haven't done, that I haven't tried out? And that was becoming a pilot. So that's when I decided to take it real serious, start training, push towards getting a license. And now I hold a PPL license and I could go flying for fun and take friends and families. And, it's one of the best decisions I ever made. And it's changed me. And this is a really, really important tip. I learned this from Jim Rohn, the late, great Jim Rohn. One of the things that he emphasizes is don't focus necessarily on what you're doing as much as you focus on what you're becoming. Set goals for yourself, not necessarily for what you will get, but for what you will become. That's more important. So becoming a pilot has changed me. It has made me, focus on details. It's improved my problem solving skills. It's improved my ability to be calm under pressure and to think under pressure. It's allowed me, most of all, to realize that in going for your dream, the number one barrier is up here. It's mentality. Yeah. So a lot of the times what we think are barriers are not barriers. So that's a little bit about when I started flying. Let me check in the chat. Do you think being part of the University Air Squadron with the RAF is a desirable thing to have when applying to the sponsored airline ATPL courses like Speedbird? Okay, great question, Tom. Great question. What I would say to that is a resounding yes. A resounding yes. Now, why am I saying yes to that? I've been to talks with Lucy Sylvester. I've been to talks with like Martin Smith from TUI. And essentially what you hear from these people is, look, yeah, you're going to be bonded for some years, but ultimately they're putting their money up front to get you through the training. So they're taking on some risk. So they need to make sure that you're as solid a candidate as you could be so that their investment is secured. What does this say about you? If you're in the RAF, if you're in the Air Squadron, right? University Air Squadron. From what I understand, I'm not a military person, but I've been around military people and I've heard them talk about it. And from what I've heard, it can be tricky to get into the University Air Squadron, and it can be tricky to get hours within the University Air Squadron. And so if you can get in, get those hours, that shows dedication, that shows that you're taking initiative, that shows that you're moving towards your dream. Okay, you've got the motivation. And a big buzzword that I'm hearing a lot when I read through Speedbird's website, their terms and conditions, what it's going to be like, when I go to these talks, when I listen to their webinars, the word motivation comes up over and over and over again. And you need to demonstrate your motivation. And getting yourself into the Air Squadron, demonstrate that you're motivated to become a pilot. And the other thing that they say is you should at least do a trial flight. Why? You might actually get, to fly an aircraft and then go, actually, this is not what I thought it would be. I don't want to do this anymore. Meanwhile, they've already selected you out of 20,000 applicants and you're in the top 200 and you've just started your training. And here you go saying, actually, I don't want this spot anymore because it's really not for me. Getting into the University Air Squadron, getting those hours in, you don't need much more than just maybe 1 or 2 hours. That shows that you're willing to try, that you've tried it, you've enjoyed it, and you're willing to pursue it some more. So yes, is the short answer. Definitely get yourself into it if that's an opportunity. Otherwise, if University Air Squadron is not a choice or an option for you, what you can do is get yourself a trial flight. 60 minutes trial flight. Won't cost you much more than, it could be anywhere around £200 if you're in the UK. So yeah, it's well worth it just to demonstrate that you're motivated, you're willing to try it out. And so you make yourself a more solid candidate. Great question. Let's see. Got a visa. Okay, so yeah, Kush, I'm going to shorten your name to Kush. Yeah, you're talking about a friend that's did a master's in Hong Kong, got a visa, joined a cadet program in Cathay, and it didn't quite work out for him, or they don't have a good opinion of that. I'm not aware of what's happening in that side of the world. I haven't heard people talk about it, but I definitely keep my ear out to hear what is happening on that side. And when I come across the retired captains and previous first officers, I'll definitely ask them what it was like over there. But I'm not aware of that anyways. But yeah, it's so tough because you potentially invest, nearly £100,000 or dollars or whatever equivalent to train yourself, only to be in a very difficult spot. Obviously, like this spot is a cadet program, so I imagine that ultimately they get to save some money. Now, some people look down on sponsored programs because they say, well, the airlines, they're there to make money. They wouldn't be making money If they were not making money off of you, they wouldn't have all these spots. To that I say, of course. But the thing is, look, in life, there are no solutions, just trade-offs. Okay? Trade-offs. That's all you get in life. There's no perfect solution. So if you're in a position where you have a strong dream, you're passionate about becoming a pilot, but based on your current income, potentially it could take you 20 years to do it. Now, that 20 years is going to eat into your career because you're going to have to retire at 65. So do you go 20 years, save your money so that you can get full pay as a direct entry pilot? Or do you go down the sponsored cadet route, get bonded on trash money for 5-6 years to then have 15 years in hand? Think about it. And the answer to that question will be different for everyone. Some people who get the sponsored cadet programs are in a position where they could fund themselves. It would be just a little bit of a stretch. Hey, if that's an option, go for it. Stretch a little bit, get it done. For some people, it's beyond their stretch, and this is a lifeline. It's an opportunity. And if that's an opportunity, well, you know, yes, we obviously have to argue for things to be fair and just. I'm with you on that. But for some people, it's a great opportunity and it's worth it despite the downsides. So it's really a personal decision. And for example, I'm more inclined for Speedbird, for example, compared to TUI, just because TUI don't give you an allowance and you have to be at home for the first 6 months of training and do your ground school. And in that time, they expect you to not be working and to be focusing full time on that. Now, for somebody who's an adult, built a life, it's not as easy as an 18-year-old who still lives with their parent. So sometimes these things can incline you one way or the other. All right. Let's see, what else do we have here? All right, I've got someone to ban. Give me a second, guys. Give me a second. Yeah, so drop your questions in the chat if you have any. I'm answering questions today. I'm here to learn as well. So I like it when I get asked questions that I don't know the answers to, because that means it's an opportunity for me to learn as well. So please do fire those questions away. Okay. Let's see. What else do we have here? Okay. I'm looking to apply to the airlines, such as BA and TUI in the upcoming months. I've done about 10 hours of flying with the University Air Squadron already and 2 flights at 2 different flight schools. Okay, Tom, you're in a great position. You're in a great position with that. It demonstrates your motivation. From what they've said, they don't expect you to have done lots of flying because this opportunity is open to people who've not had much flight training. So as long as you've had an hour, you are in really good shape. So that's really good. What should I do to be even more desirable? Okay, so this ties in with a question that I got yesterday from Aisha, which was about she's applying for the PPL scholarship with the Honorable Company of Air Pilots and the gliding scholarship. And if you haven't applied for those, both applications are open. Go to airpilots.org/scholarships. I'm going to put it in the chat. airpilots.org/scholarships. Okay, so they've got a gliding scholarship, which is a week residential at a gliding site. You get to join in the function and the operations of that gliding site in the UK. And you get to do some flying as well. Yeah, it's a great way to get into the company. It's a great way to experience aviation. and a great way to get started on your dream. And then the PPL scholarship funds up to, I'm not sure if it's 45 hours now, because they've changed, the CAA has changed the requirements for the PPL license. Instead of 45 hours of training, the minimum is now 40 hours. So I'm not sure whether they will reduce the number of hours that they give to scholars. But historically, it's been 45 hours of flight training, including all the exams. Costs are covered. So if you have never applied for that, I would definitely encourage you to apply for that, particularly if you're in the UK. Now, back to Tom's question, and I think it ties into the scholarship. What should I do to be even more desirable? So I guess there's different, and I'm asking myself this question as well, because I'm applying to the same schemes, not to, because I'm over 100 hours now. And this year I got to stage two of the selection process. And hopefully next year I'll go through the whole selection process and get to the end. One of the things that they say at the talks is stand out. Make sure you stand out. And I think sometimes we don't realize the value in what we do. In fact, here's something that came up in the last talk I attended. Captains, first officers who are experienced get put on the spot, and they're asked, according to the pilot competencies. If you don't know the pilot competencies, look them up. The 9 pilot competencies, okay? Workload management is one. Situational awareness is another. Application of knowledge, procedures, knowledge of procedures is another. Flight path management, manual flight path management, automated. Obviously, those you're not necessarily required. But if you look at the pilot competencies, the soft skills, communication, leadership and teamwork, situational awareness, things like that. These pilots were asked what they've done in the last month that shows those competencies. And people struggle because you're put on the spot. And the thing is, it becomes such a natural thing, a natural part of what you do, that you forget some of the things that you do that you're quite proficient in. So one of the advice, the tips was maybe once a month, review the pilot competencies, think about your previous month, and then write those experiences under each competency. So make it a regular practice to review your performance and log that, because you want to be able to bring it up at the drop of a dime. Because sometimes it's not that you don't have proficiency in it, but it's just that you didn't evidence it in the scenario. So review things, do a review, a regular review, and log your reviews. And for example, through the Speedbird program, at some point you're going to have a reflective interview if you get to stage 3. And that reflective interview is going to be about, how do you think you've done during the whole selection process? And you need to be able to show insight. I think I did this really, really well. I think where I probably struggled was in this area. And so I'm thinking in future, I would probably do A, B, or C to help me make that stronger. But ultimately, I feel like I performed quite well, or ultimately I feel that I could improve my performance, but I'm happy with it. Whatever your answer is, be vulnerable, be real. Very important. So I would suggest doing that, getting used to reviewing yourself and speaking about what you're learning, where you could have done better, and also what you did really well. I think that's really, really important. So things to stand out. Basics is 1, read all the details. Read. What you don't want to do is ask a question. For example, how long will I be bonded after I get through the training? It's right there in the terms and conditions. So read everything. Take the time to read. Do all the basics right. If you're applying for Air Pilots PPL scholarship, read all the documents. I've seen people, when I ran my own scholarship, there was a very good candidate that I genuinely wanted them to get the scholarship, but they didn't do the basics of ticking all the boxes that they needed to tick. So get all the basics right, make yourself stand out by reviewing your performance very regularly and being able to do that. Look at the pilot competencies and think about how you're meeting those or how you can improve within those competencies so that you can present yourself well. Then the rest of it is really down to you. You have to know you, because we all have different strengths and weaknesses. I'll give you an example. For somebody, for example, who might struggle with speaking to people, you might need to spend time practicing interviews, over and over again. For somebody who struggles to talk in a crowded room, you might need to play music, or maybe not music, but the radio in the background, and have a conversation with somebody else so that you can, it's called the cocktail effect, where you're able to focus on one conversation despite all the chatter around you, which you're likely to have in that process. And if you kind of get flustered by that, you'll be a less desirable candidate, right? Because then the situation would have got the most of you, and you struggle with the situation, which then means that you evidencing all your proficiencies will not come across. So you want to really know yourself and be truthful about your strengths and your weaknesses based on the selection criteria. If you know you struggle with the online testing, practice that. Start practicing it from now. If you know you struggle a little bit with the maths and you're not as sharp, start practicing the maths now so that you're ready by the time you get there. So it's a really individual answer depending on what your situation is and what your strengths and weaknesses are. But thank you for your questions. Shout out to Rahi. Shout out to Rahi from India. I hope you are well. I hope everything is going well in India. All right. So anyone with your questions, feel free to put them in the chat. I'll be happy to answer them to the best of my ability. And Tom, you're absolutely welcome. You're absolutely welcome. Thank you for your question. All right. Let's have a look. Let's have a look. What other questions did I get? What other questions did I get? Okay, so let's look at some tips. Rahi, ask your question, man. It's a question answer session, so ask your question in the chat. So one of the questions I usually get, this is a frequently asked question, is when you're doing your PPL training, what exams should you do together, right? Because there are 9 exams that you need to do. This is from when the UK was with the European system, which is under EASA. And now this, because of Brexit, we are separate. But essentially, we still pretty much have a similar system. So the question is, what exams should you do together? Well, I made a video a little while ago, and I want to have a look at that video just to answer that question, okay? I want to have a quick look at that video just to answer the question. What exams, or what order should you do your exams? All right, let's have a look. Yo, what's up? It's Future Pilot 901. Shout out to Student Pilot UK. Thank you for your question. What exams should you do together? Answer is, I don't know, but I can tell. Yo, what's up? It's Future Pilot 901. Shout out to Student Pilot UK. Thank you for your question. What exams should you do together? Answer is, I don't know, but I can tell you what I did, what I wish I did, and what I found helpful. Number 1, air law and operational procedures. They overlap. And also I wanted to get them out of the way before I even started flight training so that there'll be nothing legally stopping me from doing my first solo, apart from having my medical, of course. Number 2, I'd say aircraft general and principles of flight. Principles of flight matches really well with the earlier parts of training. Aircraft general teaches you all the systems of the plane as you're learning to fly. So I found that really useful. Then for no good reason, probably lump human performance along with communication, whatever. Do it, don't do it, your choice. Finally, I do wish I did flight planning along with navigation, because they do complement each other. And meteorology took me a little while to figure it out, so I had to do it on its own. But if you can lump it together, if not, don't. I hope you find that useful. Until next time, this is Future Pilot and one reminding you to live your dreams. Peace. Whatever, do it. Okay. Meteorology took me a little while to figure it out, so I...
Now, okay, so let me talk a little bit about that for just a second. All right. So the thing is, when you're approaching theory exams, now I'm yet to do my ATPL exams. So I don't know if I can say this for ATPL exams, but I can definitely say it for PPL exams. We all have different strengths and different weaknesses. Some exams are going to be super easy for you. Now, I have a background in psychology. I have a background in physical education, PE, sports. So things like human performance was super interesting, but also super easy for me. Things like topics like meteorology, on the other hand, was like, one second. Topics like meteorology, on the other hand, were a bit like, how I think about it is, we all, when you're exposed to a topic, it's like you have a basket in your brain, in your mind, right? And then when you get new information, you put it in that basket. So I already know how planes fly. I learned something new about a new plane. But with meteorology, I felt like I didn't even have a basket. So it's like I had to create a basket, meteorology, okay, and then actually put the information in, because I would read and I just didn't retain the information. But over time, the more you're exposed to it, the more the basket forms, the more you start to retain the information, and also if you interact with the information. So when it comes to attempting theory exams, what I would say is a good way to go about it. First of all, looking at the order of PPLs, air law is something that you need. You cannot go first solo if you don't do your air law. So, and then different schools have different requirements. So you want to get your air law out the way, and that overlaps quite nicely with operational procedures. So if you can get those two done quite early on, bosh, you're on your way. There's nothing stopping you from getting your first solo done. Then I would say the earlier part of your training would be things like you go out and do straight and level flight. You do turning, climbing turns, descending turns, you do medium level turns, you do basically everything that you're going to do in a circuit. Principles of flight and aircraft general go really nicely with that phase of training, because when you're approaching to land, you're going to pull the carb heat, reduce the power, lower the nose, add the flaps. Okay. Now, what is the carb heat? What do the flaps do? How does the power work? Right? What does the mixture, leaning the mixture mean? What does that even mean? The answer to those questions are in principles of flight and aircraft general knowledge. So that will give you the broader context to that phase of training. And so you'll be doing the physical training and then reading things that reinforce that training. So that's why I particularly like that, mixing those two bits together. And then communication and human performance, as I said in the video, there's no particular good reason to mix them together. Just based on personal preference. Meteorology, personal preference when you do it. Navigation and flight planning performance. Now, those go really well in my experience, and they match really well. So if I split PPL training into some phases, the first phase is to get you to your first solo, right? And that's the first time that you get to taxi on your own, no instructor to your right, take off,
manage your own flight path to do a circuit, and land for the first time by yourself, no instructor in the aircraft. And it is always, for most pilot, the biggest highlight of their training. And so where was I? That's the first phase. That's the first phase of training. Then the next phase is you doing a bit more advanced training, steep turns, forced landings, things like that, so that you can prepare. Because the next thing you're going to do is a solo navigation, where you're going to fly to one spot, then another spot, and then back to the airfield. Okay, and this time you get to fly away from the airfield. And that's then preparing you for the next phase, which is your landaways and your qualifying cross country. So you're now going to land somewhere else and come back. Then you're going to land to another airfield and come back. And then at some point you do a qualifying cross country, which will take you a minimum of 150 nautical miles to one airfield, then another airfield, then back to your home airfield. Okay. And then once you do that, you're basically preparing for your tests. So when you start to fly away from the airfield, that's when you need your navigation skills. That's when you need your flight performance planning calculations even more. Okay. And I find that, again, if you're reading about the stuff and you're then training in the stuff, it just helps to reinforce the information. You're bringing the practice or the theory to life because you're doing it around the same time. So I would suggest leaving those exams till the end of your PPL training, or as the last exams that you do. But if you can do it before you start training navigation, even better, because then you will be ahead of the curve. Okay, so I think that's the order that you should be doing your training. Now, let me have a look at any other questions. Okay, so let me see. Give me just a second. I'll come back to this question. Let me have a look at something quickly. All right. I don't know why my internet is playing up. I don't understand. Why is it not loading? Let's see. Okay, I'm gonna have to go about it a different way. I want to show you guys something. I want to show you something before I continue answering the questions. Okay, if you're interested in checking out me going through my PPL training, then you can find that on the YouTube page. And here it is. Have a look.
Nice takeoff.
That's a screw. I was waiting for that because everyone does it.
I'm gonna make sure that you can do it. And you can do it, I know.
Can you get to the height of a double-decker bus?
How about this height?
Smoothly throttle to idle. Smoothly raise the nose.
This is floating! This floats!
Yes, man. Good food after hard days of flying, bro.
Bro, it's needed, man. That landing, woo. I'm worn out.
Yes. So if you haven't checked that out, make sure you get yourself to the Future Pilot 901 YouTube page so that you can watch that. There's season 1 and season 2. And there is other videos that you can see what adventures I get up to. Okay. Now, before you get on my case, I know I've got like tons and tons of footage that I've not yet posted. That's because I work 3 jobs to live one life and fund
one big, big, big dream. In fact, I've even got to the point of considering selling my liver. But apparently I hear that if I sell my liver, then I will die. So that kind of is a little bit counterproductive. So I'm considering selling my kidney instead. But yes, funding aviation, funding the dream is a challenge. So yeah, hopefully next year I'll get some more videos out. But if you want to see those that are already out, make sure you check the Future Pilot 901 YouTube page. By the way, if you're on YouTube, make sure you hit that subscribe button, turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any posts. And if you're on Kick, make sure you hit that follow button. And hey, look, if you guys drop super chats or you know drop gifted subs, I will not be upset. I will not be upset. Yes, I will not be upset. All right, people, let's get back to the questions because this is a question answer session and I'm going to be as honest as I can, as vulnerable as I can be, and tell you when I don't know things. But if I do know, the little I do know, I will share. Okay. So right, he says, I also want to fund the training from my savings from my corporate job to make it less heavy on my wallet. Can I continue my job along with flying training, assuming I have a student visa for school? Okay, so I'm imagining from what you're saying is that you want to train in the UK because that's where student visa would come in handy. Yes, you can train. I believe you can train on a student visa. I believe so, but don't quote me. All right. But I believe you can. Can you continue my job along with flight training? Okay. So if you're paying for your own training, okay. So if you're working full time and you're paying for your own training to become an airline pilot, you're going to have to go through what we call the modular route, which means you do it in modules. You do bit by bit by bit by bit, which means that you also get to pay bit by bit by bit by bit. All right. So if you're on a student visa, I imagine that will make you eligible for things like the PPL scholarship, because what you will have to do is do your PPL training. Then after your PPL training, you get your night rating, potentially an instrument rating. Then you need to do your theory exams, 13 ATPL theory exams. Then you do your CPL training. Yeah, get your commercial license. Then with your commercial license, if you add your APS MCC, which is multi-crew cooperation rating, I think one more other thing, but it's eluding me. If you add that, then you have what is called a frozen ATPL. And then when you get to 1,500 hours, you unfreeze your ATPL license. So if you're going the modular route, then you'll be, if you're working and training, you're going to be down the modular route, which it's doable, but you just have to plan very strategically, right? Because what I would say is the PPL is a first good step because the PPL is valid for life. Essentially, you just have to keep revalidating it, doing refresher training or something along those lines. And then you need to add the ratings to it. So I would say think about it in chunks, okay? And you can do a quick search to see how much it costs. So think about it in chunks. Think about getting your PPL done, and then maybe you might need to take a break for a little while to save up some money, and then do your ratings. Then maybe you take a break and focus on the studying, right? Because that could take you anywhere from 6 to 18 months of doing the theory. So then once you're doing your theory, you get to save up a little bit more. Once you finish that, you then do the more expensive stuff, which is like multi-engine, potentially if you're looking to, well, you will need your multi-engine. And CPR training and stuff like that, so you can then put it all together. So it is doable. It's difficult, it's challenging, but obviously how much money you've got left to the side will determine how long it takes and whether that's worth it for you. But as I say, if you're on a student visa, you can get something like a PPL scholarship from the air pilots, because as long as you're around in the UK without need for sponsorship and you can get yourself to the airfield and you don't need to be taken care of, then you can apply and you're eligible, right? Because it's not job, it's not work, you're not getting paid, you're just training. Yeah. So I would suspect that it's okay, but obviously make sure you do your research and check that out. Okay. When completing, Tom says, when completing the initial almost cover letter, yeah, what do you think is best to have in the cover letter to get through to the next stage and stand out if there are 20K people applying? All right. So good question. Obviously, I've got nothing to do with the Speedbird selection, but I have got some experience in scholarship selection. So I'm speaking out of that. Let me get some background music going. It is going to be Christmas after all. I mean, I've got to get into the Christmas spirit. Let me get some background music going. You guys let me know. All right, so what did you do to stand out? Bear in mind that they don't look at this until further into the film. So essentially, you submit your CV, you submit that motivational question, and then you do your online testing. Now, last year they changed it where you had to pass test number 1 to get test number 2. You had to pass test number 2. So there's the math test, situational judgment, and then there is the checking test. And after that, there is the, I can't remember the order. After that is the PA. I would say make sure you get yourself to them webinars. Yeah, because there are slight changes that have been brought in this year. Yeah, for example, with PA, they said that they tried to do a little bit more on the spot. Okay? So I don't know if they're keeping the same system on it's past the first test and the second test. Previous to this year, earlier this year, it used to be that you get all 3 tests in round 1. But this year, they have to pass one of them. And once you get past that, at some point, that's when they then look at your education questions, they look at your CV, etc. Right? So that they don't have to look at all 20,000 applications, okay? Which is a little bit better. Now, next thing is, next thing is you then want to not be saying exactly the same thing as everyone else. I really wanted to be a pilot. I was a pilot from when I was a child. I wanted to be a pilot from when I was a child. Okay, it's like, okay, if I had a penny for every time somebody said that to me, I would probably have enough money to pay for flight training. Okay, so don't be saying stuff that everyone's saying. Now, how can you get past saying the obvious things? Make it more personal. Make it more personal. So, Tom, I believe you said you've been in the University Air Squadron. Include that. Anything that you've done, if you've attended things like PCL, put that on there, right? Use what you've done, because not 20,000 applicants. Some people literally just woke up on that day, oh, British Airways are potentially hiring, and they just applied. All right. And they're not going to make it far. But you, it sounds like from your experience, should at least make it to stage 2. Okay. Fingers crossed for you, you get it this year. But include those details. Include those details.
I'd say tell your story. I always, my philosophy, okay, I don't know if this works. It worked for me this year, but or maybe it didn't. I don't know because I didn't get feedback. But my philosophy is you will remember me. You might not accept me, but at least you remember me. So I go very, I kind of have an opening hook. I say something out there, right? That shows my motivation. So for example, and this is something I've said to people who are applying for PPLs, what you can do, you still got some time now. So if you think, oh, I would love to say this in my answer, but I've not done it yet, then do it. If you have not attended an aviation event, if you've not attended one of their webinars, okay, do it in the interim so that you can put it in there. I'm University Air Squadron, I've attended the webinars, and that just increased my motivation, increased my desire to become and it made me realize that this is the best place for me to be because of ABCD. All right, you've done your research. That's another thing that keeps coming up in those talks. Do your research. Yeah. Why do you want to be in British Airways? Because it's a great airline and it's profitable. Yeah, not quite standing out. So make sure you do your research. Another tip that was really, really good tip. You want to have certain questions, particularly if you struggle with a question. For example, why would you want to be a British Airways pilot? If you struggle with that, you know, so I live not too far from Heathrow and I catch the Piccadilly line, right? I'm not going to tell you where because I know what the internet's like. But I catch the Piccadilly line, all right? Or not, or maybe I do. But I see lots of cabin crew, lots of pilots in their uniform. And the thing is, when they go into work, they don't go dressed in their own clothes and then put stuff on. Or if you don't have that physical proximity, but you can go online, LinkedIn, Instagram, whatever, ask them that question. Hey, like, why do you fly for British Airways? Like, what keeps you at British Airways? Oh, well, I really love the seniority list. It's very simple. You know, when you join the company, that's your birth date and then your company birthday. And then over time, you know, you get more options as you go, you know, as you spend longer and longer with the company. Okay, bank that answer. The next British Airways pilot you meet, ask them the same question. Hey, what keeps you at British Airways? Why do you still fly for British Airways? Oh, because I really love, you know, how at Gatwick as a base, you know, we have set days off. So we have like 4 days on, 3 days off, and that's consistent throughout the year. And I love that we can then, you know, really plan our times, plan whatever we're going to do with family because it's really structured, as opposed to maybe other bases where it's a little bit more kind of changeable. Bank it. You hear more and more answers, and then you list those answers and you think, okay, which one resonates with me? And you can then draw from that and use that in your answer. One of the reasons why I want to be a British Airways pilot is because, you know, I would love to, you know, I really love the way they take care of their, you know, their colleagues and how every colleague matters. And I very much buy into the values, like, you know, every second counts, every colleague matters, and every customer is unique. And I think that I will fit in. Okay, so another thing, for example, is the opportunities that they have. If you're in a smaller airline, you don't have as many opportunities beyond the flight deck. But if you go to a legacy airline, there are more opportunities, like, for example, British Airways, there are more opportunities beyond the flight deck. So is that something that's attracting you? So whatever your question is, ask it to as many pilots as possible. Draw from the answers they give them what seems to fit with you most, and then bring that. You still have some time. It's still probably a couple of months, I think, until they open up for selection again. So you've got time to put the work in, you know? So
yeah, that's a strategy that you can apply to make yourself stand out, because then you really know what you're talking about, and they're going to read that and go, this person knows something about the company, and that's what you want. They're going to remember that. Let's see. Short, brief commercial break. Ever since I was a kid, I had a dream of becoming a pilot, but could never afford it. One day I decided to stop making excuses, to sacrifice my comfort, to make my dream happen. My name is D, and this is my journey. This is Future Pilot 901. Okay, apparently my volume is quite muffled. 1 second. Mic check 1 2 1 2. Mic check 1 2 1 2. How is that? How's the sound? One in the chat if my sound is good. One in the chat if my sound is good. Is it still muffled? Is it like the microphone was too close to my mouth? Was that distorted like that? Or is it it was with the okay, got you. So it was with the Christmas music. Yeah, for some reason this software does that. When I'm playing music in the background, it can be a little bit funny, but I've stopped the music now, so it should be all good. Yeah, it should be all good. Now, if there's anything where you missed what I was saying that you need me to repeat, just put it in the chat and I'll try and recapture the value of what I was giving you guys. And that's for free. That's for free. That's for free. All right. Okay, you can hear me. You can hear me. Okay, you couldn't hear me before. I was giving you guys gems as well. Some real gems. Basically, if you didn't hear it, the crux of what I was saying was, 1, make yourself stand out by thinking what would you like to put in there in your application that you haven't yet done. What would be good to put on there? Would it be good to say that I've been to the webinars? Would it be good to say that I've been to an aviation event? Would it be good to say that I've visited one of the flight schools, i.e. FDE or Skyborne? Okay, cool. Do that now, so that by the time that you apply, you can put that in. Secondly, you've talked about University Air Squadron. Put that in there. Everything that you've done that shows that you've gone out of your way to try and achieve your dream, put that in there. And then also another big tip is, if you have a question that you particularly struggle with, for example, why do you want to be a pilot for this airline? Go on LinkedIn or find somebody, if you live near the airport and run like I do, come across these pilots and colleagues, ask them the question that you struggle with. Why do you like to fly for this airline? What keeps you at this airline? Oh, I really like A, B, or C. They will tell you. After a while of asking every pilot you meet from that airline that same question, you're going to have a list of answers. And what you want to do is then think, okay, which answer resonates with me most? And then from that, you can devise your own answer so that when they read it, boom, it stands out. But bear in mind that with a Speedbird application, you put in your CV, your motivational answer, then you do your testing. Now, they will not look at your answers until you get past the testing. So when you do your maths test, situational judgment, detail checking test, PA test, then you will get to then they might look into, at that point, they might look into your application. They might look into your motivational answers. Yeah. So just bear that in mind. But what you want to do is avoid saying what other people are saying. And how you can do that is make it more personal to you. Make it more personal to you. Okay. To your story, to your journey, to the things that you've done to show that you're really motivated to become a pilot. All right, cool. Let me pick up some more questions. Thank you for your questions, guys. Really appreciate you joining in. Okay. Okay, so I've answered that. Once, let's see. So Rahi asks, once I complete my CPL, can I work as a flight instructor? In India, the aviation market is tough at the moment. So it would be good to build my flying hours and help others achieve their license. Would you recommend? Now, I don't know what the system in India is, but I can tell you what the system in the UK is so that you have an idea and then you can use that to research what happens in India. Now, in the UK, we, even around the world, we had COVID in 2020 and aviation went like this, right? Shrank. There were no flights. You check flight radar. There was nothing. Ghost town, right? And then everything came back and it went, right? So now Jet2 has a sponsored program. TUI has a sponsored program. British Airways has a sponsored program. Aer Lingus has a sponsored program. And maybe some other airlines internationally have some sponsored programs. Why? Because they need pilots. So, and what happened was a lot of flight instructors wanted to become first officers and, you know, have their career in an airline. So that meant, and that has meant that, for example, I had 1, 2, 3 instructors who I flew with around about COVID time. They're now all in the airlines. So there's been a huge shortage of flight instructors, particularly in the UK. I don't know what it's been like internationally, but in the UK, there's been a huge shortage of instructors. So they very much need instructors right now. Now, in the UK, when you complete your CPL, for you to then instruct, okay, you need a flight instructor rating. Okay. Now you can do your flight instructor rating before you have a CPL in the UK, but you're limited in who you can train. You're limited in those privileges. But if you want to have the full flight instructor privilege, then you complete your CPL and you do your flight instructor rating. Now, important thing. Just because when you get your CPL, you're on the left seat, doesn't mean that you can train from the right seat. So your flight instructor rating moves you from the left seat to the right seat, and you get to do all the training that you need to do. You get to demonstrate how you would instruct a student. I imagine that you will probably, you know, talk through and practice scenarios. Maybe, what if your student does this? How are you going to react? What if your student does that? How are you going to react? To prepare you. So the flight instructor rating is really important. Now, shameless plug, in January, Monday the 5th, Tuesday the 6th, Wednesday the 7th, Thursday the 8th, Friday the 9th, I'm going to do a show every evening, 7 p.m. UTC. 2 of my guests are going to be flight instructors. So I'm going to release some information about that further down the line. If you don't have me on Instagram, make sure you follow me on Instagram. Instagram.com/futurepilot91. The number's 91. Futurepilot91. Check the description on YouTube to see for the link. Okay, I will probably post it there first to say who I'm going to have on the Monday, who I'm having on Tuesday, who I'm having Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Then you can make sure that you join the show with the flight instructor, and you can ask your questions to flight instructors. For example, what is flight instructor rating or the flight instructor training like? Okay, so yeah, it's a good way to build hours, but a huge difference, for example, compared to America, is that we don't have the same thing in the UK. In America, sometimes, and they complain about this system where you basically use flight instructing as a way to build hours to then get to 1,500, which then you can get into an airline. In the UK, we don't have the same system. So
once you get your ATPL, you would be a low hour pilot, but you can. I don't know if there's a lower limit. I don't know exactly what that hours is, if there is a lower limit, but you'll be a low hour pilot. So there are positions for low hour pilots. Okay. So we don't have that same issue of having to be an instructor to build those hours. Okay. And yeah, the airlines that might take you, smaller airlines, most likely, but you can then get into an airline. So it's very important to research the system of where you are, okay, and do your research on it. But that's what I would say about that. All right. So, all good, mate. Can you potentially repeat the first part about initial? Okay, repeat the first part about initial stages. Do you still need me to repeat that? Is that a recent comment? Yes, it is. Okay, I will repeat. Let me just look at this. Shout out to JR. Thank you for passing through. I'll come back to your question, Tom, because there's just a bit more detail on that one. Once I complete my PPL, can I fly a jet or do I need a CPL? Okay, you cannot fly a jet with a PPL. You can't fly a jet with a CPL. Now, what am I talking about? You would need to do training in the aircraft. Okay, so for example, when you get a PPL, essentially the rating you get is either seaplane rating because you did your PPL training in the seaplane. Essentially, actually, it's a single engine piston. Okay, so you can only fly piston engines. So if you do your CPL, you will most likely be in a piston engine. So you would need to do training in a jet to be able to fly jets. Okay, so just do some research on that. I would say, I'm not going to talk about things that I don't know much about. That's towards the edge of what I know, because I haven't researched it myself. But I can definitely say you can't just fly something without having the training for it. So you would need to do some kind of training for jet aircrafts. But I'd be interested in doing some more research on that myself, because I think that's a great question. But yeah, just so you know, your PPL gives you single engine piston aircraft. And then what you would want to do is get to multi-engine, right? And then from there, you would have to go into doing further training to get into jets. Okay, so coming back to this question, what did I say about the initial stages? So let's see, Speedbird. This year they had about 20,000 applicants. They choose about 200. That sounds like it's staying the same. What else? Last year or previously, they used to do a thing where they gave you all the tests, right? So you do your motivational question, you send your CV, then they would send you the maths, they would send you situational judgment and detail checking, and you just get it done. This year, they introduced that you had to pass the first test. I can't remember the order, but for example, you'd have to pass the maths. Then they send you the situation judgment. If you don't pass the maths, they don't send you the situation judgment. If you pass the second test, they then send you the third test. Okay, so people got knocked out at each test. And then if you pass the detail checking, you got sent the PA announcement one. The PA announcement one this year, they've said is going to be slightly different, meaning you may be required to think a bit more on your toes. But what I would really suggest is getting yourself into their webinars. They do a webinar every other month, and they will get to talk about what the process is like this year. And they also give tips. Last year, during one of the webinars, they invited somebody who was successful in the process to kind of share a few tips. Okay, so I would say do that. But how do you stand out? That's down to your own individual situation. Ask pilots the same questions that you struggle with, motivational questions, hear how they answer it, so you can refine your own question, because your own answers, so you can refine your own answers, because the last thing you want to do is to give a stereotypical answer. You want to have an answer that stands out. So I'll give you guys for example, what I wrote previously. I'll change it this year. I don't know if it worked. I don't know because I didn't get feedback. But my one was something like, at different times I'll be like, it took me 7 months living in my car, 2 years of sleeping on my aunt's couch to fund my PPL training. And that has been the best decision I've ever made and the best adventure of my life. And I want to do more of it along those lines. But I would start off with like a boom type of line that hits you. Another application I might have started with, you know, whenever I meet somebody, whenever I go on a first date, I tell them that I don't do holidays because I can't justify to myself paying hundreds of pounds to go on a holiday when I'm trying to achieve my dream of becoming a pilot. So I kind of said that, but in a way that flowed, in a way that sounded a little bit punchy, but also to the point. Okay, so I want them to read my answer and for that to stand out, so that they go, oh, remember the guy, the living in his car guy, or do you remember the guy, like the first date I don't go on holiday guy? I want to make it really easy for me to be identifiable. Okay, just use your story. Yeah, so take some time, explore your story, do it in bullet points, things that you've done. Maybe even when you do that, share it with somebody else and say, look, from everything I've done here, what do you think, with the application in mind, what do you think are some of the most interesting, most valuable bits? And maybe somebody with external eyes can be like, oh, no, really emphasize this, really emphasize that, you know? So I would say applying, here's another tip, is draft your application, get feedback, because you want to correct things before the stakes are high. What does that mean? If you draft your application, send it off, they might think, this is not as clear as it could be. And then they end up cutting you. What you'd rather have is that feedback before the stakes are high, so that you've just drafted it, people look at it and they're like, oh, it's not that clear. Then you correct it and send it. Okay, so make sure you get some feedback. Make sure you have people, trusted people around you can get feedback on, so that your mistakes are not costing you your opportunity. Yeah. All right. Let me have a look. All right, I'm going to take the last question and then I'm going to be out of here. So if you haven't put your question in the chat yet, you get the next 5 minutes and I'm going to be out of here. Are sponsored programs by airlines restricted to UK citizens, or can I also apply? I don't have any background in flying. Okay. They're not restricted to UK citizens, is the first answer. What they put in their eligibility criteria is that you need to be to have the right to live and work in the UK without sponsorship. Okay. So if you have, and there's different ways to have that. One way is citizenship, but that's not the only way. As long as you have the right to live and work, because remember, the sponsored program is they sponsor you through training, and then after your training, you have a job. So there's no point in them paying for your training if you then can't work in the country. You know what I mean? So you need to be able to work in the country. You need to be able to live in the country. So that is the restriction. I know that's the case for British Airways. That's the case for TUI. Now, Aer Lingus is different. Aer Lingus need you, so far, they might change it. I don't think they would. But because they're based in Ireland, Aer Lingus needs you to be a UK or EU citizen. So, for example, I can't apply for that because I'm not a British citizen. So I can't apply for Aer Lingus. But British Airways Speedbird Pilot Academy, you can. TUI, MPL, you can. Jet2, you can as well. Jet2, you just have to have the right to live and work in the UK. All right.
All right, people. I feel like I've had some really good questions. I have to say, I'm so grateful for all of you passing by, and I particularly have appreciated the questions that have challenged me, the questions that have pushed me to the edge of my knowledge. For example, the jet question, I think, is quite interesting. I had a question about Cathay as well, which I don't know much about Cathay, but now I will, when I pass, cross paths with previous Cathay captains, pilots, I will definitely ask them that question and ask them how they felt the pay was. Obviously, they might not want me to quote them in public, but at least I will have some information that I can share. And questions about flight instructors, again, remember January the 5th to January the 9th, I'm going to have a daily show, and I'm so excited to have a daily show because I'm going to have guests on. All right. And I've just this week, just over the last couple of days, confirmed some guests. I've got 2 guests on Monday the 5th. One of them is a flight instructor, the other is an aspiring pilot. Then on the Tuesday, we're going to have Return of the Mo. Some of you would know last year I used to do a podcast with Mo, the steady athlete. He's going to be joining me on Tuesday, the 6th of January. On Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, I'm still deciding the details, but I'm going to have another flight instructor, one of them who hopefully is around, because flight instructors sometimes travel around, so hopefully he's around and can make it. That would be Keno, who is featured on my channel. If you look up instrument approaches into Southend, or 1,000-hour flight, if you search any of those on my Future Nano, can't speak anymore, Future Pilot 901 YouTube page, that video features Keno. So he will be there. He's very knowledgeable. He's very, very accomplished as a flight instructor. So I can't wait to speak to him. And there will be some other guests who will be confirmed. If you don't have me on the Instagram, make sure you follow Future Pilot 91 on Instagram, because I will likely post it on there so that you can know who the guests will be and when they will be on. But the shows will be daily, Monday to Friday, January 5th to January 9th, 7 p.m. UTC or Zulu time. And they will be happy, I'm sure, to answer your questions. All right, people. Well, listen, I hope you have an incredible holiday season. Christmas is in a couple of days. I know not everyone celebrates it, but whatever you're doing, I hope you have a great time with family. I hope you have a restful time. If you're resting, I hope you get to recharge your energy, because we need to go into 2026 raging like a bull. We need to charge into that year ready to live our dream. Thank you for all the questions. Remember, this show is brought to you live every Monday, 7 p.m. UTC. That's Zulu time, live on YouTube and on Kick. If you've not yet hit that subscribe button, make sure you hit the subscribe button, turn the notifications on so you don't miss anything. And if you're on Kick, make sure you hit that follow button and you'll be notified every time I'm on. All right, people. Thank you very much for joining me. I've loved your questions. Let's see if there's anything else for me to let you know before I go. Let's see. Okay. And just to end up, favorite aircraft that I've flown the Cessna 150, Cessna 152, Cessna 172, and the PA-28, both the Warrior and the Archer. Which one's my best one? My favorite one, I would say my favorite aircraft that I've flown so far would be the, drumroll please, Piper Archer. The PA-28 181 is my favorite aircraft to fly. And the favorite aircraft the aircraft that I would want to fly, I'd say, is a Cirrus SR-22. I would definitely like to fly that at some point. Okay. Well, with that said, it's time for me to go. I hope you have a great week. Until next time.
This has been Future Pilot 901 Live. I'm your future captain. My name is D, and I'm reminding you to live your dream. Peace. Adios.
Man, from living in my car to finally getting my trial flight done.
Hold it.
To being in this moment.
Hey, come on.
Well done.
Was it worth the sacrifice? Oh man.
Flat. Golf X-ray.
Pull back. May pull back more. Hold it there. Pull back.
Switching to Southern radar 130.
A bit more.
Listen. Was it worth the sacrifice?
So, power right on. Center line.
Listen, if you have a dream, it's down to you to make it happen, man. You might give it everything and it might still not work, but guess what? The journey makes you a better, stronger person. Can you imagine what kind of person you would become if you didn't pursue the one thing that you thought was the best thing in the world? You didn't pursue it. What kind of person does that make you after 20, 30 years of doing that? But when you chase what you believe is the most valuable, the most beautiful, the most awesome thing that you can do, and you give it everything, win or lose, you become a better person.